I'm Jonathan. You can find me at jklonowski NFL on Twitter. Welcome to Fancy and Frames and to another video in our 2023 Dynasty Target series, where today I'll be talking to you about Michael Pittman Jr. Before I get started, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and head over to fancyandframes.com for even more fantasy content. Now, Michael Pittman Jr., he is going into his fourth year in the league, which means he's entering his contract year. He's seen two big changes to his situation this offseason, with an exciting new head coaching hire in Shane Steichen coming across from the Philadelphia Eagles, where he was the offensive coordinator, and also a brand new quarterback in rookie Anthony Richardson, both of whom should hopefully significantly help Michael Pittman Jr.'s situation after quite a difficult third year in the league. If we look at his recent stats up until now, see, he had quite a slow start to his career before a really significant jump in year two, hitting almost 1,100 yards, scoring 6 touchdowns. Did see a slight regression in year three with fewer yards and touchdowns, all coming despite an increase in usage. You saw an increase in both targets and receptions, but that unfortunately came with lower efficiency. So last year, Pittman finished as the wide receiver 20 in full PPR scoring, according to Fancy Data, which equated to 13.5 PPR points per game. He's now hit double-digit points per game in back-to-back seasons, scoring 14 per game in the year prior. So Michael Pittman Jr. has been a really solid contributor to fantasy teams in the last couple of years. The big question is, can he take that next step forwards? I mean, looking deeper into his stats, Pittman achieved all this despite the Colts being statistically the worst offense in football last year, ranking dead last, 32nd in offensive DVOA per Football Outsiders. So he had to deal with a combination of Matt Ryan, Nick Foles, Sam Ellinger, and with Jeff Saturday as head coach. So last year, I think hopefully was the absolute floor for Pittman, and hopefully, with the new additions that I mentioned earlier, that situation should hopefully have improved dramatically this year. I think it probably has. I think it can't hopefully get much worse than last year. He saw 141 targets last season, which ranks just outside the top 10, represented around a 25% target share. I think Michael Pittman is very clearly the number one option on this team, and I don't think that is something that is likely to change. I think he should maintain that really high target share this year as well. The Colts do have some fairly interesting options outside Michael Pittman Jr. with the likes of Alec Pierce, but I don't think there is anyone really to challenge him to that number one spot. And the poor quarterback play that we mentioned earlier has meant that it's been much tougher for Michael Pittman to hit his true ceiling. He saw his average depth of target drop to just 7.7 last year, the lowest over his career, from 8.5 in his rookie year, which increased to 10.3 in his second season. I think with the changes that we mentioned earlier, with Anthony Richardson coming in, who does like to push the ball downfield, with Shane Steichen coming in as head coach, I think we should see that average depth of target increase this year, hopefully back to where we saw it in that second year, which all will push Michael Pittman's ceiling higher, all the while maintaining that safe floor, as we mentioned, with that high target share. So all in all, Michael Pittman had a really awful situation last year, which should mean that the only way is up. And all of that is interesting to think about when you consider his dynasty value. I think that last year's output has really kind of suppressed his value. We saw his value peak in around September of 2022, and has steadily been on the decline ever since. If we look at Dynasty League Football's June ADP, Pittman was being selected as the wide receiver 21 after being around a top 10 wide receiver around September last year. There is interestingly quite a discrepancy between Dynasty League Football and Keep Trade Cut, which has Michael Pittman all the way down at wide receiver 32 at the time of recording, which puts him behind the likes of Chris Godwin, Pickens, Jameson Williams, all of whom I would take Pittman over, both in a startup or in a trade. So in conclusion, I think in Dynasty it's always good to bet on talent, and in particular, I think it's always shrewd to bet on players going into their contract year that have that extra little bit of motivation. Especially when someone like Michael Pittman is still young, only turning 26 later this year, and is someone who people are maybe forgetting about a little just because of last year, and maybe not quite taking into consideration the fact that situation might be a whole lot better this coming year. I think if you're, whenever you're acquiring a veteran, I think we should always be betting on that talent, as I said earlier. And if you can try and acquire someone whose stock has maybe been a little bit tainted by unfavorable circumstances, I think that's always a really good move, and that's something that we have here with Michael Pittman Jr. So all in all, as I mentioned earlier, hopefully a safe floor again with that high target share, and hopefully an increased ceiling with his change in situation. I think with his contract, I think there's a good chance that he stays in Indianapolis as well, with the amount of cap space that they're going to have next year and trying to build around Anthony Richardson. And so I think that there's a chance he has a much better year this year and an even better 2024 in hopefully the second year in that offense with Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen. So that's my thoughts on Michael Pittman Jr. Thank you for listening. Do let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know about any trades with Michael Pittman that you've seen or are considering. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more content from Fantasy and Frames as we approach ever closer to the start of the season. Thank you very much.